Hello and welcome to the ScatterVolt channel, and today we're going to be building the best $700 gaming PC you can do in 2024. And yes, this build actually costs $700. Power supply, 60 bucks. Graphics card, 165. CPU, 165. Motherboard, 75. RAM, 100 bucks. Case, 64 bucks. That comes out to about $696. Nice. Either way, this is going to be an excellent build for 1080p gaming, and you could even do 1440p gaming depending on the game. You can stream to Twitch or YouTube however you please with this build. And lastly, my most favorite part of this build is that it uses the Ryzen 5 7500F. And why that's great is that you're going to be on a motherboard that can support future Ryzen processors. So if you wanted to throw on an 8000 or whatever next series of CPU comes out from AMD, you can do that. So this build is not only $700, but it's also a bit future-proof for upgrades. So it's also a smart build. So in today's build guide, I'll show you how to put together this computer step by step, the parts going inside of it, how to install Windows, drivers, anything else you need. It's 1080p and 1440p gaming benchmarks, and then concluding if you should actually build this computer. And if all of this sounds really complex to you, don't worry. I have a singular PCbuilds.gg link in the description below, neatly laying out all the parts that you need to put together this $700 PC, which you can use to actually assemble this. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and get into the build. If you've got that annoying activate Windows watermark in the bottom right of your screen, then it's time to activate Windows, which can be done through today's sponsor, mycdks.com. MyCDKS.com is an online storefront full of discounted games and software like Windows 11 Pro, which, using my discount code SV30, can get you it for as low as $19.60. And guess what? This exact Windows key that you saw me purchase is the exact same one I'm gonna go ahead and use later on in this PC build guide to activate Windows on this exact gaming PC. So that's how you know it works. So what are you waiting for? Get discounted games and software through mycdks.com, which can be found at the top of the description below. All right, so before we get started, my last PC build was an all black, professional, clean looking build. This one's gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be black and white, almost like a stormtrooper aesthetic. So if you enjoy those kinds of black and white builds, then let me know by leaving a like on this video. That way I can gauge how successful this video is and if my next PC build should be a similar color scheme or not. Anyways though, to actually build this computer, all you're gonna need is a banana, a pair of scissors, and an 8GB or bigger flash drive for our Windows bootable media device that you'll put into this PC once you're finished building it. And this is what will actually let you install Windows. So for our motherboard, we are going with a Gigabyte A620M S2H. Now, in order to make this $700 PC build work and stay under budget, we have to go down a tier for motherboards to A620. Now, don't get me wrong, this is going to be perfectly fine for the CPU we have chosen in this build, and honestly, it's gonna be pretty good for a lot of other AM5 CPUs. But if you wanted something a bit more beefy, then I definitely recommend spending a bit more on a B650 motherboard. That'll future-proof you even more for CPU upgrades if you want to throw in like a 12 or 16 core CPU in the future into this system rather than a 6 or 8 core. But nonetheless, this is the best A620 motherboard you can get. It does have the best VRM performance, and this will certainly get the job done. So go ahead and take out your motherboard. We need this IO shield. Here's a little manual. Here's some SATA cables we don't need. Let's go ahead and remove this and put it on the motherboard box. Oh, nicely done. And if you are confused at all on where is what on this motherboard, here's a little QR code you can scan with your motherboard. That'll direct you to Gigabyte's website where you can download a manual for this exact motherboard if you want to follow along and just know where is what on this motherboard. Although you can just watch this video instead if you wanted. Then for our CPU, we are going with the AMD Ryzen 5 7500F, and this is the best budget gaming processor out there, period. There is no Intel CPU that can match this in terms of performance, and better yet, like I said at the start of the video, it is on the AM5 socket. So the AM5 socket right now is going to be supported until 2026. So if you wanted to upgrade to a Ryzen 8000, 9000, or maybe 10,000 series CPU, you are on the right socket for that. Now we're given a few options here. You can either buy a 7500F from AliExpress just for the CPU, which is going to be $155, meaning you won't be given this stock cooler, which what you could do is then get an aftermarket CPU cooler like this one we're going to be using later on in the build, which I honestly recommend, or you can get the version of this for $165 that comes with the stock cooler. This is also fine. Just I like the aftermarket CPU cooler because it's going to be serving two purposes in this build. This is a downdraft CPU cooler, so the fan is actually going to be pointing down at the motherboard. And why this is handy for this motherboard is that here on the A620 board, there aren't any like actual VRM heat sinks right here, whereas like what you find on a B650 motherboard. So in order to cool this off, we can use our downdraft cooler to act as a makeshift heatsink right over those VRMs, which is kind of a neat thing to do. So if you wanted to save money, just get the version of the 7500F that comes with the stock cooler. But if you could spend an extra 10 bucks more, I really think you should get the version with just the CPU and then buy this aftermarket CPU cooler, which once again, all this will be linked in the PCBuilds.gg link in the description below. So in order to install the Ryzen 5 7500F onto our A620 motherboard, first thing I want you to do is to go ahead and remove these two black plastic tabs around the CPU socket. Locate the triangle on the top left of the CPU. This is going to help us for alignment. And then there's going to be a triangle here on the top left of the CPU socket. Line the two up, and that'll let you correctly place the Ryzen processor into the motherboard. So go ahead and press down this lever, which will open it up. Draw this back. Take your Ryzen 5 7500F. Gently place it in here. Once you think it's firmly in there, go ahead and bring this down, and then press back down the lever. Pull this lever underneath this little clamp right here, and voila. Now, like I said, I like it if you were to use an aftermarket CPU cooler in this build, like a downdraft cooler. So I'm not exactly gonna show you how to install that step by step, as here in the Thermalright cooler that we have, it already has its own manual. Not to mention there's a bunch of other downdraft air CPU coolers you can use with this build that will do the exact same thing. But go ahead and just follow the manual that's for this CPU cooler. I don't think I can spot it in the box, so it's probably somewhere online, which you can easily find that. So here's a montage of me installing this. It's not that bad. You literally just bolt on the brackets, you put down the CPU cooler like so, and it's really easy. All right, so for memory, all I want you to get is a white kit of DDR5 RAM that is at a speed of 6,000 megahertz with a CAS latency of 30. The brand doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be from G.Skill. It can be from Corsair, AData, Team Group, whatever. But don't worry, I have a kit of RAM linked in the PCBuilds.gg link in the description below that has a kit that is compatible with this build. And then for SSDs, I'm gonna give you guys two options here. So I have easily the best performing option and the cooler looking option, but isn't as good. So for the best performing option, because I've used this SSD plenty of times in the past, it's really dang good. It is the KingSpec XG7000 1TB SSD. The reason why this is so good is that it's $64, which although that's a little more costly than say what this would have costed 6 months ago, it's one of the cheaper 1TB M.2 SSDs that feature a DRAM controller. And DRAM is so important to gaming PCs. If this is gonna be your boot drive, it better have a DRAM controller. Don't cheap out on one of those cheap SSDs that doesn't have a DRAM controller. But this one's red. And as you can see, this is gonna be a black and white build, so it's gonna stand out there in the M.2 SSD slot. So for the cooler looking option, I have this Clev Cras C910 M.2 SSD that is also 1TB, costs just about the same as the KingSpec drive, but this one doesn't have a DRAM controller. But what it does have is SLC caching, which is not as good as DRAM, but it's something, and certainly way better than an SSD that doesn't have either DRAM or SLC caching. Still though, I'd personally go with the KingSpec drive. This one's gonna be way better performing, but for aesthetics, we do have this Clev one, which we'll be ultimately using in this build guide. So for our RAM, So simple, you literally can't mess this up. This goes into the only 2 slots on this motherboard. This is gonna go a certain way as these inserts are different sizes, but if it's not going in a certain way, just go ahead and flip it. Make sure to give it a firm press. You don't wanna be a wuss with this. You gotta press it in all the way and hear that click. And then for M.2 SSD, this is also super simple. This is going to go right here. As you can see, there's a little insert here on the connector that's gonna line up with this notch on the M.2 SSD. So the two are gonna go together like that. But I wanna go ahead and put on this heat sink first. So I'm gonna take off this 3M tape right here. And then I'm gonna put this on the M.2 SSD. All right, we've got that on. And in order to put this in, we're gonna go ahead and take out this plastic stopper right here, put that to the side, insert our M.2 SSD, that is in, press this down, and then we're gonna put back this plastic rubber stopper into the hole right here, and then we're gonna turn this way, and now the M.2 SSD will stay in place. Okay, and for the case that we nearly destroyed at the start of the video, we have the Deepcool CH370. This is one of my favorite micro ATX cases for the money, because I don't think there's another micro ATX case that is as well built as this. Even the side panel here, this is tempered glass. It's not cheap acrylic glass like in some other popular budget PC cases that people just can't seem to get enough of. This one doesn't cheap out, and that's why I really like to use it. Anyways, go ahead and remove the back panel here. This is what's gonna give us access to a little baggie that's gonna contain all the screws and things that we need in order to build this PC. So no, you don't need to buy any of your separate screws or anything like that. All of it's gonna come with the case. There we go, in this plastic baggie right here. Let's open this up and look at that. There is a case manual for the CH370 right here. You don't know how to build in this case and you wanna know all the things there needs to know. There you go. But more importantly, in here is our baggie full of screws, which we'll use to install the motherboard. Real quick though, before you insert the motherboard, don't forget to put in your IO shield. You wanna do this before you place in your motherboard. There's gonna be 2 sides to this, a flat side and a side with pokey bits sticking out. You want the side with pokey bits going inward into the PC case and the flat side on the outside. Inserting this is going to be very simple. You come from the inside right here. And how I like to do this is I line the IO shield with the 4 corners here. Oh yeah, make sure that's all the way in there. And now let's install the motherboard. So one thing cool with the Deepcool CH370 is that we have all of the standoffs we'd possibly need for a micro ATX motherboard already pre-installed. So we don't need to put any new ones in, which is great. So put this in, line it up with the IO shield so that it covers all the standoffs. I accidentally flipped the IO shield, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in the right way. There we go. Take this, press it up against the IO shield. There we go. I can see the holes of the standoffs. So now go ahead and take these screws that you see here on screen, and we're gonna go ahead and screw in each standoff into the motherboard. Now what I like to do is I don't completely screw these in all the way. I like to lightly tighten them. I'll only fully tighten each of these screws once all of them are already in. Okay, now I have all 6 screws that we can screw in into the motherboard already in there. So now we'll go ahead and tighten all of these one by one in a crisscross formation. And the reason why you want to do this is so that way there's equal pressure on all sides of the motherboard and therefore no flex to the motherboard over time. There's only one standoff we couldn't cover right here, but that's fine. This should be enough. And then while we're here, let's go ahead and plug in our singular case fan, which we have a system fan header right here, which for the moment, I'm gonna go ahead and snake it around here, around the RAM, and then place it right here. There we go. All right, for the power supply, I've gone with a 550 watt 80 plus bronze power supply, this time from MSI. Once again, you don't need this exact power supply in order to make this build work. It can be from Gigabyte, Asus, wherever. But this is the one I'm going with because it offers one of the best price to performance ratios for a budget power supply. So to install this, you can either use these screws that you see here on screen that came with the CH370, or you can use the screws that came here with this MSI power supply. Here is the power supply with all of the cables pre-attached. All right, and here is a power supply cable for a power supply that will eventually plug into the wall outlet when we're ready to turn on this PC for the first time. Now, one thing I'll note is that 550 watts is actually plenty for this gaming PC, but if you at all wanted to throw in a more powerful graphics card, in the future in this gaming PC, then of course it'd be smart to get a power supply with more wattage, like 650 watts, 750 watts. That's probably the most I'd go with. But for starters, 550 is completely fine. So installing this power supply is super simple. It's gonna go right here in the back of the PC case. We want the fan side facing down, so go ahead and bring this down. Line it up with the back of the PC case. Go ahead and use those 4 case screws that I showed you earlier. Nice, and that is in. Now the next step is gonna be plugging all this into the motherboard and eventually our graphics card. Now the good news is that this set of cables right here are our front IO cables. This is gonna go into the motherboard. So this is like our power button, our reset button, our 2 USBs, our audio jack here up top. And then for these power cables, we only need a few of them. We only need this big one, that being our motherboard power connector. We only need one of these that says CPU, because there's a power connector on the top left of our motherboard for our CPU. And then we only need one set of these PCIe power cables for our graphics card. And if you're gonna throw in any additional accessories into this PC, like a set of RGB fans, then that's where you maybe wanna use one of these SATA power connectors to power up the RGB controller. But other than that, that's all we need. Let's go ahead and start plugging everything in. So this right here is our HD audio connector. This is always gonna go in the bottom left of the motherboard. And if you're wondering where I can find all the locations for these individual plugs, they are all displayed on the motherboard manual. There we go. Next up, this is the RGB header from our downdraft aftermarket CPU cooler. And I'm gonna be plugging this into our 12-volt RGB header here that says D-LED, the one with 3 pins. There we go. And to the right of that is going to be all of our individual IO headers for our power button, reset button, and our HDD LED. Now, how to exactly plug these in is not that complicated. You just need to follow the onboard diagram that shows in your motherboard manual how to install each of these. But if you want to follow along with me, HDD LED is going to go in the bottom left 2 pins. Reset switch LED, or not LED, it's going to go right next to that. And then above the reset switch is going to go the power switch. So these 2 pins to the left of the power switch will be unoccupied. That's where power LEDs would go, but for this build, in this case, it doesn't have any, which is fine. Once again, refer to the motherboard manual if you don't know how to plug this in exactly or where to even plug it in. Now this black chunky guy is our USB 3.0 header, which is gonna go right here. Can't miss this connector, it's one of a kind. So this is only gonna go in one way, just like that. Now here's our CPU power connector. So you can see there's a latch on the top of the connector, which is gonna line up with this little notch here on the top of the actual CPU power connection. So bring the 2 together. This is only gonna go in one way. There you go. Then right here for our motherboard power connector, same deal. Here's a latch, here's a notch, line the 2 up, bring it in, easy. Make sure it's all the way in there. Then finally, here's our PCIe power connector for our graphics card, which we're gonna plug in now. Now this right here is my second favorite component of the build, and that is this Radeon RX 6600M that I purchased from AliExpress for a whopping $165. And guess what? It comes in white. Now, I've talked so much about this graphics card. It is probably the best budget graphics card in 2024 by a large amount. This is essentially a Radeon RX 6600 that you can get from Amazon, Newegg, or wherever, but on a $30 to $40 discount. And this is also brand new. Yeah, I'm looking at the VRAM modules here. They don't look used at all. This is pretty much new. It's an OEM RX 6600M, just in a desktop graphics card that you can purchase on the aftermarket from a brand like Soyo. As far as performance goes, it's gonna be the driving factor behind that excellent 1080p gaming performance and 1440p gaming. And this graphics card can also do streaming to Twitch or wherever you want, because this has built-in hardware encoders and decoders that can do any type of video work you want it to do. So go ahead, remove this little piece right here. We're gonna unscrew this little tab right here. Then we're gonna take out the 2 PCI latches that are gonna be occupied by the graphics card, which are gonna be both middle slots right here. We're gonna put the card in not the topmost PCI slot, because that's where, say, you put in a Wi-Fi card. We're gonna put it in the one just below that. So go ahead and line it up. And once you think it's gonna go in, go ahead and give it a firm press. There we go. I heard that click, it's all the way in. Now let's go ahead and screw back in these two screws right here for the GPU. And then screw back in the latch right here for the PCI cover slots. And then here's that PCI power cable I was showing you guys earlier. Go ahead and connect the two ends right here to make this a singular 8-pin connector. There's once again a little latch here on the connector that's gonna line up with the notch here on the top of the power connector for the Radeon RX 6600M. This should slide in like butter. Give it a firm press, hear that click, and now let's go ahead and turn on the system for the first time. Okay, now it is time to go ahead and turn on this computer for the first time. So first and foremost, you're gonna need your USB flash drive that contains your bootable version of Windows 11, which is what we're gonna use to install Windows 11 onto this PC. You can use any 8GB or bigger flash drive. I have a video linked in the description below showing you how to create a Windows bootable media device just like this for free. So go ahead and plug this into the back of the PC into one of the USB 3.0 ports. Here is our power cable that came with the MSI power supply. You're going to plug this into the back of the PC and the other end into the wall outlet. And I'm going to flick the switch on the back of the power supply from the 0 to the 1. Setting it to the 1 means whenever we press the power button, it's going to turn on for sure. If we had it set to the 0, then it wouldn't turn on at all. Then here's our display cable. It could be DisplayPort or HDMI. And we're going to plug it into where the graphics card is, not where the motherboard is. Down here where the graphics card is, and plug in the other end into the motherboard. Then of course, don't forget to supply power to your monitor. Don't forget to plug in your keyboard and your mouse. That's pretty straightforward. Press the power button and pretty much wait. We're ready to install Windows. Here's where you can go ahead and enter in your Windows product key if you have one. You can click on a product key if you don't have one, but I just bought one for $19.60 off of our sponsor, MyCDKS, and I have the key right here on screen. I'm gonna go ahead and enter that in letter by letter. All right, let's see if this works. Hey, there we go. I accept, next, custom, there's our drive, next, done. All right, choose your country, choose your language. If you want a second keyboard, you know, whatever. Now here's where we're gonna go ahead and plug in your form of Wi-Fi, or if you have an Ethernet cable that you can plug from the back of this PC to your router, you're gonna go ahead and do that right now in order to connect to the internet to log in into your Microsoft account. I have this spare USB Wi-Fi dongle, so I'm gonna go ahead and use this to proceed forward. Or if you had a dedicated PCI Wi-Fi card above the graphics card, then that also works for Wi-Fi if you need it. The fastest way to have a connection to your internet is to have a wired connection directly to your router. All right, hit next. Here's where you're welcome to name your PC. I don't care for that though, so we'll skip. Now here's where you wanna go ahead and sign into your Microsoft account, which is why we need Wi-Fi. Now this can be your old Xbox Live account email address. It could be an old Hotmail account. Whatever your Microsoft account is what you're going to use. This isn't super crucial, but if you don't have one, you can always create one. If you're given this option, which I don't expect you to get that, click on more options, set up as a new PC. Here's where you want to go ahead and create your PIN. This is what you're going to use to log into the computer every single time you boot it up. Now for all of these privacy things, I like to tick all of them off because there are extra processes running in the background that could slow down the computer. And for everything from here on out, I just decline, skip, because they're all promotional offers that I don't need in order to make this PC work. Okay, so we get this little Gigabyte Control Center here thing. We actually want this. Click install. This is going to be a really convenient way that we can manage all of the individual drivers and utilities that we want that go along with our motherboard, like our chipset drivers. So go ahead and just proceed with this. Pretty straightforward, just follow the instructions like you're installing anything. And while this is running, let's go ahead and install those graphics card drivers for our Radeon RX 6600M, which believe it or not, are directly available on AMD's website. So type in AMD drivers here into your search bar, click on the top AMD.com link, then go here to graphics RX 6600M, RX 6600M series, and right there is our RX 6600M. Click on submit. We're on Windows 11, so let's go ahead and download that. Let's go ahead and do the latest version here from 2024, and we'll let that open once it finishes downloading. Anyways, right here is our Gigabyte Control Center. Let's go ahead and open that up one more time since it looks like it's finished installing. Click on the little arrows right here. This is our update center. And as you can see, here's all the available updates we have for our motherboard. So some of these are necessary, like our AMD chipset driver, our HD audio driver, and RGB software, but Norton, we don't need that, obviously. We even have the option to download the latest BIOS for our motherboard, which let's go ahead and do that. And I think I'm good with just about all of this. Let's go ahead and hit install. We'll go ahead and let all this install and run, and once our system reboots, then we'll go ahead and install our graphics card drivers. There we go, go ahead and let this run, let your system reboot, and then we'll go ahead and install graphics card drivers. Okay, now that we've gone ahead and let the Gigabyte Control Center do its thing, and also installed a BIOS update for us, which was really handy. Now let's go ahead and install those graphics card drivers. So go ahead and double click on the AMD software link that downloaded earlier, hit next. This is gonna be so straightforward. It's gonna be a piece of cake. There's our 6600M drivers. As you can see, we're using the regular Radeon installation software. There's no goofy drivers you gotta install for this. It's the same as any other Radeon graphics card. All right, and with this finished, we'll go ahead and restart a computer, which we can find right here. And we're gonna do one more thing in the BIOS. And in order to enter the BIOS, we're gonna go ahead and spam the delete key on our keyboard as soon as the logo for our motherboard comes up. There we go. All right, so the only thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and find, where here it says XMP EXPO profile. We'll go ahead and click on that. Click on XMP1. And I think this should be enough. As you can see, resizable bar is already enabled. That is good. So now we'll go ahead and hit save and exit. Yes, and now we should be ready to get to gaming. Okay, so I've got some cool FPS games coming up, but first I gotta try Forza Motorsport because the full Nürburgring just got added and I have yet to try out the Aston Martin AMR Pro. So it's gonna be a fun combo, but just to show you guys, no fans up top, no fans in the front, just the aftermarket cooler and the one stock fan that comes with the CH370 right here. So I'm using just one case fan right now for all of these gaming benchmarks. And likewise, all of these gameplays you're gonna see are being recorded and played on the PC at the same time. Oh boy, y'all. Anyways, FPS meters on the top left. We are running the game at, I think I should show you guys before the hecticness takes over. I think I've got 1080p, high settings, no frame rate cap, with AMD FSR 2.0 set to quality. Oh, and one more thing. Just because I'm gonna show you guys. Or I guess I can't show you guys, but I have the AI difficulty set to like 7. So it's gonna be decently difficult. Oh wow, that's nimble. Very responsive. The AI in this game are not spectacular. No traction control, no ABS, no stability control, all that fun stuff. Okay, not bad. Oh, but the AI, what? If I get on the throttle even a little bit liberally, the car is just gonna flick. But there's a ton of downforce in this car. Yeah, check out this corner. Whoa, no, okay, maybe not that much. Not that much downforce, but a lot. This car on a controller is just asking for trouble, man. All right, here we go. It's taking the devs a long time. Might need a short shift in this car to keep the traction under control. You know, this car, it can eat curbs pretty well. Oh, the track is so small. Oh my goodness. Oh, sweet, no penalty, that's good. Yeah, the track feels small. This car looks so huge on it. This is not right. Oh, look at this. See, this is what the little kids love. They like it when a car has so much downforce, they don't need a brake. They can just fling it. Like, watch this. Easy. Oh, nice. Nice. This car, it's definitely on edge, but I'm liking it so far. Oh, man. Y'all, I think I could keep driving. Very much could on this computer. It is certainly fast enough to run a game like Forza Motorsport at 1080p high settings at a frame rate of, what, 111? But I think we got some other games we gotta show how well this PC runs, so let's move on to those. Okay, next up, I got Fortnite, and I'm actually gonna enjoy playing it this time because there is the Rocket League mode in here, and we're gonna be racing against other people, and I'll show you the game settings real quick, but I gotta win this. How do they do that? What? Gotta build up some boost right here. By the way, FPS meters on the top left. Check this out. Gotta go wide. Bring it in. Bring it in. Get the drift. Build the drift up all the way. Get another one. And then we're gonna bring it in real tight and neat. Come on, come on. Give me the boost, give me the boost, give me the boost, give me the boost. I'm right there. There we go. And bring it in. Small drift right here. Yep, easy, easy. It's just me and this guy right now. I can't tell who's behind me. I'm gaining on him though. Gotta go for a nice wide line right here. And, oh, I might be in the lead now. Woo! I am in P1 on the last lap. Can we hold it? This is the most exciting Fortnite has ever been for me. In the 5 years this game has been out, I am more invested in it now than I've ever been. Oh, nope, nope, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Go, 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 go. Oh my God. Let's freaking go. Ah, great. Anyways, that's it. Let's move on to one more game. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a game that is considerably harder to run than Forza Motorsport or Fortnite, and that is Starfield. This game, even what, 5 months after launch, is still kind of a pain in the ass to run. Right now, we are running the game at, get this, medium settings, but fortunately, we do have FSR3 kicking things up a notch, and we have the render resolution set to 75%. And on this $700 gaming PC at 1080p, we are managing around 60 FPS. Let's see what happens when we go inside this cave. And oh yeah, it definitely has. Right, so, oh, I can't see, man. Flashlight, oh, thank goodness, now I can see. Let's head back to the ship and give this to somebody. I kind of wish we ran into some action, but you know, you don't always get action in this game. Not all the time. So just running back to the ship. Now we're chilling at about 70 FPS. Let's see what happens when we land back at New Atlantis. I don't know where we're headed to. Okay, we are headed to Sidonia. This should either make or break how well this PC can run AAA games at decent graphic settings. Of course, if you want this game to run better, you gotta pay up more, but let's see if we can at least get this game to run decently well on this PC. We're inside Sidonia. Can we holster our weapon? I don't think so, not right now. Anyways, we're getting about 83 FPS. What if I were to, let me try something though. What if I were to say, go back here to display, let's increase the render resolution back to 100. Now the game looks considerably sharper, but the frame rate has gone down. Oh yeah, the game looks way sharper now. Is that it? Did we do it? Yeah, that was it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, I'm doing a fourth game just because I promised you guys that I would show you guys what 1440p looks like on this PC and if it can actually run it. So we've got God of War here. We are running the game at, as you can see, 2560 by 1440. Although we're using a few tricks, we have AMD FSR 2.0 set to balanced. You know what? I'll do quality. Why not? And then for the graphics settings, we have it all set to high. And there you have it. We're getting just above 60 FPS. I don't know any of the keybinds. What's the dodge button? What's the... We can throw, but then how do we get the axe back? Oh man, that's great. Dude, I don't think... I'm not gonna finish this guy off. But hey, here's a game running at 1440p on the $700 PC. So yes, I can run games at 1440p, but obviously it depends on the game. And if it has FSR, then that helps things out for sure. So with that, let's go ahead and close out the video. All right, so what do I ultimately think about this $700 computer? Well, performance-wise, it performs like a $700 computer. It's got an RX 6600M, which acted the exact same as a regular RX 6600 you could get from Newegg, from Amazon, or from wherever retailer you want to get one from. But of course, the 6600M from AliExpress is a good $30 to $40 cheaper, which provides huge savings, which I think was the reason why we were able to squeeze in that 7500F and AM5 motherboard. The performance at 1080p is pretty good, and I'd say between the CPU and the GPU, you're definitely getting a very good CPU. I am really happy with that Ryzen 5 7500F. Once you go on that AM5 socket, you are going to be on such a well-supported platform, and if you are, I guess if you want to upgrade it all from that Ryzen 5 7500F, you've got the AM5 socket at your disposal, and you can throw in the next Ryzen 9600 600 or 10,600, whatever 6 or 8 core CPU that you want, this motherboard should be able to handle, especially in thanks with the downdraft cooler that we have here blowing cool air onto those VRMs. Aesthetics wise, I think we did a pretty good job. I think thanks to the Deepcool CH370 and this black and white enclosure, and with the white GPU, the white cooler, the white RAM, I think I did a pretty good job stock. Of course, I've added a few extras. I added what it looked like if you had some extra case fans here, like these spare Deepcool RGB fans that I have right here, and some additional white cable extensions for our power supply cables, but that's really it. I think this could be overall a very nice looking system while not breaking the bank. And difficulty wise, I don't see a problem in building this. It was pretty straightforward. And I guess the only thing I'll finish this segment on is if you had any additional money you could spend on making this gaming PC just slightly better for an extra, say 20 to 30 bucks, absolutely pick up a B650 motherboard to replace the A620 motherboard in this gaming PC. You will get a substantially better built motherboard that can handle even higher end processors, better future-proofing you for a CPU upgrade, and they're also going to offer some more features, some more ports. So if there's any part I'd spend a little bit of extra money on, it's getting a B650 motherboard. Otherwise, I think the CPU and GPU combo in this build and the fact that it has DDR5 RAM for a $700 gaming PC is especially impressive. So that is it for today's PC build video. If you enjoyed it, absolutely give it a like. I mean, why not? You've made it to this point in the video. And if you enjoy PC build guides, I'm known for them. We make them pretty often here on the ScatterVolt channel, so I think it'd be worth subscribing. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and this is the ScatterVolt channel, signing out.